Let's go. We're live. Timmy Ward, it's nice to finally meet you.
You too. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on. I read your article actually today just to be prepared. The Rutgers article that they wrote about you and your fight with cancer, and then how you tore your ACL. I believe was your senior year or junior year, and then
Yep.
you became the equipment manager at Rutgers and walked on to the football team. And I want, because I can say that, but I want to hear you tell the story, because I'm sure there's some things that weren't mentioned. But I just want to say this: your story is like, and I'm a Notre Dame and a Rutgers fan, so this is
Okay.
this is something that's legit. You know who Rudy is, right?
Oh yeah.
Rudy Rudiger.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, your story is like a movie. It's like
I know.
Rudy. I mean, I've met Rudy. I love Rudy, but this is great. And as a Rutgers fan, I got my Eric LeGrand Believe book right
Oh,
here,
that is
which I
awesome.
love. So I'm super excited, and I think listeners are in for a treat on this one. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to you. Can you tell your story and how you got to where you are now?
Yep. So, obviously as a kid, I was introduced to football very young. I was roughly kindergarten, so I was 5 or 6 years old. I started playing flag football. Obviously loved it from day one, and it was something that, as I had gotten older, started tackle football in first grade. And as I got older, it was just every single year, it my love for the sport just continued to grow. And I got into high school. I knew football was what I wanted to pursue at the next level, and um, I had a good wrestling career in high school, and it was just not for me. I didn't love wrestling like I loved football, and I came from a wrestling family, which I don't think was my dad was didn't care, but I think um, he wanted to see me pursue wrestling, but it wasn't in any. Um, there was no bad blood with any of it, so it wasn't anything crazy. But um, I get to be. It was my junior year. I knew this needed to be the year where I needed to make growth and show college coaches that I was good enough to play at the next level. And I didn't, in my heart, I wanted to go to the highest level and prove that I'm good enough to play at the highest level. And I was pretty closed off to all of it. This is what I'm going to do. And right before my junior year, I had gotten a letter in the mail from the University of Cincinnati, and they just kind of saying like, you're one of our potential prospects in the 2020 class. We want you to come out here, do an in-game um, visit, and just kind of see the school and everything and see what you think. And obviously once I got that, it just sparked everything even more, and it got me so excited. So I knew going into my junior year I had a shot. I just needed to continue to prove it that I am exactly who you think I am. I'm good enough for this. And it was July before my junior year, so it was right before our like training camp started for the season. I noticed a lump right in my armpit. Didn't really think much of it. Thought it was just a lymph node that was swollen. Maybe I'm getting sick. Maybe I have whatever. Didn't know, but I wasn't too concerned. And I get to about halfway through training camp and I wasn't feeling great. I thought I was out of shape, so I'm doing extra, just trying to get myself in shape. And by the end of August, I was like kind of wondering if something wasn't right. We go and the lymph node was slowly kind of getting larger, and it was real firm. It was almost like a golf ball. And I go and see my doctor. He thinks just a swollen lymph node, it's a normal thing. He didn't think anything was wrong. So I continue the season, And mind you, during games, I was noticing stuff wasn't right. I would hit someone, my vision would, I basically couldn't see for a solid 5, 6 seconds. And like my vision would shake a little bit. It was very odd. And I knew that wasn't normal. But as a kid, I was like, I wanted to play football. I want to do all these things, and I didn't want to let anything get in between. So I continued the season, continue to have these issues. I go and meet with my doctor a second time, and I think he kind of thought I was crazy a little bit because he still said he didn't think anything was wrong, but referred us to a surgeon, and I got blood work done, and they didn't find anything in the blood work. So they referred me to a surgeon just because I had been back a second time with the same issue, and they wanted to have a surgeon see what he thought and maybe get a biopsy done. I go another 2 weeks in the season. I meet with the surgeon, and he also didn't think anything was wrong and said, we can hold off the biopsy until your season's over. And in my head, being a young kid again, I was like, perfect. There's no reason to do it. These medical professionals don't think anything's wrong, so I'm going to wait till the end of the season. I finish the season. We get beat in the playoffs, which at the time when it happened, I was upset, mad, the whole 9 yards, which ended up being a blessing that we did lose. Um, but I go and get my biopsy done like 6 days after. That weekend, I go on my visit to Cincinnati, and I'm riding high. I'm so excited. I had a great season, and I'm thinking everything's gonna start picking up recruiting wise. And then I get back on Monday from my visit, go and do my post biopsy um, appointment with the surgeon. It was supposed to be with the surgeon. He wasn't there when we did the appointment for the follow up, and we go in, and they had a person come in who was filling in for him, and they're like, "Did your surgeon call you with the results?" And we're like, "No, all we know is we were supposed to be here for this follow up. Nobody told us anything." And she says to us, she said, "Well, someone was supposed to call you with the results." And we're like, "Nobody told us anything." Like now we're starting to get kind of nervous because she's kind of acting weird. And then she goes, "Well, it's not good." And immediately, obviously, I had my mom and my younger sister there. They started crying immediately because obviously at first we thought nothing, but then when she said that, they were thinking worst case scenario. She's like, "It's Hodgkin's lymphoma. We're gonna have to get a hold of some hospitals and talk to some doctors and figure out what we're gonna do from here." And obviously a shock at the time, and it didn't feel real at all. And still to this day, all my treatments and everything still just feels like a fever dream. It was just like the weirdest thing ever. Doesn't feel real. And we go out into the office, and they call a bunch of different hospitals. Penn State Hershey Medical Center was the first one to get back to us, and they're like, "Yep, we'll take him, whatever." And I think there was like 2 or 3 days in between that appointment and going to Hershey. So I didn't know what to do. I went home like stunned, no clue, and I had school the next day. And obviously, my parents were kind of left it up to me, and I decided to go to school. I don't know for what reason, but at the time, it was just like, I want to try and live a normal life, whatever. I had no clue at this time what the staging was, what anything was, or where I was at. And I ended up going to school the next day or the next 2 days, maybe. And it was just like the weirdest thing ever. Everyone kind of slowly found out what was going on. And I was just kind of in my own world. People were obviously didn't know what to say to me. Friends didn't know what to say. Teachers didn't know what to say. And it was a very strange feeling that I hadn't had before. And So then fast forward to going to Hershey. I got my PET scan. I did all my scans, and I did some more blood work, and it ended up being stage 2, which obviously in the whole grand scheme of cancer, that's good, a good sign. They caught it early. Um, and when I got my PET scan, when they showed me what it was and where all the cancer is, it's kind of intimidating because they show you, and um, it. I kind of just had speckled little. Obviously, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, so it's through your lymphatic system, so it kind of travels through lymph nodes and stuff like that, and it was just kind of very eerie to look at. You have tumors throughout your chest and along your rib cage and up almost to your neck, and it was just very, very weird to look at and go through. I did 4 cycles. I did 4 cycles of chemo. So every week was kind of different. Um, one week I'd have, I think, 2 days of treatment. The next week I'd have 1 day of treatment, and then I would have a week off from treatments, which my body needed because it was getting beat up from it pretty good. Um, Usually that second week of each cycle, I'd end up um, in the ER. My body would just, I would do a double dose of the one chemo from the week before, and my body usually didn't handle it very well, so I'd end up in the ER. I would need a transfusion usually after that, or of some sort, platelets, whatever the case would be. And so then I get done with all my treatments. The last day of treatments, I rang the bell. It was very emotional for me and my family, just because everything went so fast. And it's kind of weird because in the moment, it felt like a lifetime. But once I got to my last treatment, it was like super, super fast. It just, everything felt like it was fast forwarded, and which my body wasn't really taking in much of anything while I was going through it. So that's probably why. But rang the bell, got my scan, I think the next day, and they thought they could see something on my lung. So then it was kind of anticlimactic a little bit because it was like I'm done, I'm out of this, and then they were like, we don't know, we can't tell what it is. And so then I had to wait a month before I got another scan. So that whole month was just wondering the whole time. We had no clue if it was going to be good or bad. Got that scan, everything was clear. And from there on out, it was just like pedal to the metal. Once I got my port out, I tried to start working out again. I had lost 20 to 25 pounds during my treatments. So, and it was all like I could hardly do a push up. I was trying, and it was just day by day. I had to build it back slowly. And I got to a point where I was kind of built back up a little bit. I wasn't quite where I was at before it, but I was getting stronger. And my last I got my port out in June, and obviously the football season started in August, and by that point I wasn't ready to come back and play football yet. My body wasn't fully recovered from it all, and so I had to sit that year out. And once the fall ended, by time fall was over, my body was ready to go. So I did that next wrestling season there in the wintertime. Ended up going to the state tournament and placing sixth at the state tournament that season. And it was the day before my 1 year um, from treatment, which was very cool. It was actually insane. And it was also in the same town as where I got all my treatments, which was very weird and strange the way everything worked out. And so I was able to enjoy that for a little bit. It was like finally like a um, little bit of a relief. Everything just kind of fell off my shoulders. And obviously, football was what I wanted to be doing, but just being able to compete again and kind of live a normal life again was amazing. And got that scan done. Everything was still clear, so I felt like I was good to go. And the state of Pennsylvania gave me an extra year eligibility to play football for my last year. because I wasn't ready to come back right after treatments. And so at that point, when I got to the season, I was bigger, faster, stronger than I ever was my whole life. And I put in a lot of time to get there. And I knew to myself this was going to be my year. I was going to make it happen. I had talked to college coaches, and they would tell me, like, we would love to offer you, we'd love to do this, but you've had this, you haven't played football since this year. And um, we need to know that you are actually the same player you were before. And obviously, I was like, deal, I'll prove it to you. I'm good. Everything's good. And so the season comes around. During training camp, I did very well. Um, I was feeling good. Everything was going great. And we have a scrimmage before our season starts, right before the week before our first game. So I go to the scrimmage, and I was going to be playing a new position that I hadn't played years before. So going into the scrimmage, my coaches thought it'd be smart for me to play the position I always had played so that nobody knows what we're cooking up there. And so I was like, yeah, I'm fine with it, whatever. And so I go in, and the first play of the scrimmage, I'm running down the field to try and block for um, one of my buddies who's running the ball. And I felt a weird pop in my knee, fall to the ground. And instantly I knew what it was, non contact injury. Um, the way it felt, I knew something wasn't good. And I was kind of figuring it was going to be an ACL. But I go and get an MRI. And on a Thursday, I found out it was a torn ACL. And I looked at the doctor, and I was like, is there any way I can play? And he's like, I mean, he actually left the room, and he's like, I got to go talk to somebody. So he went to talk to his boss, obviously trying to protect himself a little bit because it's not really the smartest thing to do. And the guy he went to talk to actually knew my story and knew what I had gone through. And he came in and he's like, dude, I'm not going to be the person to tell you you can't do it. Um, so if you want to try it, you can try it. The only thing I'm going to say is you can only play one side of the ball because I think playing both ways will be too much stress on your knee. And I was like, deal. And so the plan was to go play defense, and the game was the next day. This was on a Thursday. I had a game on Friday, and because of COVID, they rescheduled all the games. So it was actually our rival school, week one, and went out, played the game. Probably had one of the best games of my career ever. Had like 12 tackles or something, 12 tackles, a forced fumble, and that was in 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, I went to tackle somebody, felt another pop in my knee, and went down. And after that, I was like, all right, I got to get this fixed. And so I go and get my knee fixed. So then I'm kind of starting the whole process over again. Um, my body's broken down. I got to build it back up one time with cancer and then the ACL. So now I got to start it all over again. And mentally, it took a toll on me big time. And honestly, both processes of trying to heal my body was, I have to give all the credit to my family and all my friends that were around me, because without them, I definitely would not have been able to get through all that by myself. Just the mental weight that everything had on it and the pressure I was putting on myself, which I didn't need to do, but I was, just because I wanted to go somewhere and do something that was special and different. And my family definitely, throughout that whole process, both of them, they were with me every step of the way. And with my ACL, my sister was actually my athletic trainer who did all my rehab. So that was obviously, she's one of my biggest supporters and has been my whole life. And it was nice having one of your biggest supporters as also your um, physical therapist. So that was huge. And she got me back to even stronger than I was before my ACL. So um, all that happens. And in the meantime, I was in contact with Rutgers because before the season, they're like, we got to see how you do. There's a chance we can give you a preferred walk on offer, and that to me was like everything I ever dreamed of. Regardless scholarship or whatever money they wanted to do, I didn't care. It was these guys are in the Big Ten. They believe in me. They can see what I'm doing, and they want me to be a part of their program. And so I was in contact, and then I tore my ACL. And in my head, I'm like, I can't tell them. Like I couldn't muster up enough guts to tell them like that it had happened because I knew what would the text would be after that. And so I didn't tell them. And a couple months after the season, they reach out and they're like, we're trying to look for your stats. We can't find any stats on you. What happened this season? And that's when I was like, well, I tore my ACL. I already got it fixed. I'm rehabbing it. I'm gonna be good. And because of COVID, they had seniors that stayed an extra year, and they're like, dude, listen, like we'd love to have you, but we just can't with the way our roster is structured right now. We can't take a chance on a guy that's gone through two things now. It would be not very smart of us to do that. And obviously, I didn't take that. I did not take that at all. I was like, I kept blowing up their phones. I'm like, I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be good. Like, just trust me, trust me. And they were obviously very nice about it. They stuck with me, and they're like, listen, like we can't offer you a spot, but if you honestly want to be a part of this program, then you can come here and be a student manager. And then if you want to try out, when we have our walk-on tryouts, then we can't tell you no. And for some odd reason, that was like literally the best thing I've ever heard in my life. It was like almost felt like the same thing as if I would have gotten a full scholarship. I, I at the time, now thinking back now, at the time, I have no idea what I was thinking, but I'm glad I did it. I texted them back. I was like, "That's exactly what I'm gonna do." And they're like, "Well, you're gonna have to get into school on your own. You're gonna have to do all that, and we'll send all your information to our equipment manager, and you'll have to figure it out from there and see if you can get a job working for us." And that's exactly what I did. I reached out to them. They're like, "All right, can you be here August 2nd?" I think, yeah, August 2nd, because it was my birthday. And I was like, I'll be there. So got into school, showed up August 2nd for my first day of work, worked all the way through training camp as an equipment manager, setting up drills for the coaches, setting up practices, and doing laundry, doing all the stuff that as a kid, as a high schooler, as a teenager, I did not want to do. All the stuff that my mom did and for me, and now I'm doing it for guys that I feel like I should be playing with. Like I feel like I'm at their level, but now I'm doing their laundry. So it's very humbling, and not many people really. When I really didn't tell a lot of people what I was doing because I was kind of at the time embarrassed a little bit, just being the guy that I was in high school, and um, it was just kind of hard for me to tell people that I'm gonna go be an equipment manager at this Big Ten school, and I'm not going to be going on and playing football somewhere. So it was hard for me, and not many people that did hear what I was doing really believed that I was going to actually make the team, and that just fueled my fire even more. Like that's something that stuck with me even to this day. Throughout my whole career, it was just like I'm going to prove you wrong no matter what, and you're going to have to sit and watch me do it. And so I am equipment manager through training camp. They had walk-on tryouts. It was like September 6th or 7th, and I was thinking they were going to be after the season. And I'm not even like my knee isn't anywhere near where it should be. I'm still kind of I'm not even a year out from my surgery. So in my head, I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go do this, and my knee's not even. I was still kind of wearing a brace, and but I went to the walk-on tryouts. Obviously, did not wear my brace because I'm trying to prove to them that I'm good and clean and ready to go. And I think that day I ended up running somewhere like a 4.740. I did really well in all my drills, all the indie stuff that we did. I did very well, and I had relationships with the coaches from working for the football team, and they knew I was going to be there because I kept it in their ear. I kept telling them like, I'm going to go to walk-on tryouts, and I'm going to do pretty darn good too. So they knew I was going, and afterwards I was kind of like, I felt good about how I did. It's just they didn't tell me at the time any of my times. I didn't know how fast I ran at the time. But all my buddies who were equipment managers, they sat in the stadium and they watched me do the whole tryout, and they were videoing me and sending me all the videos, and which was pretty cool. All the friends I had made doing that. And so then the next day I went back to being equipment manager and didn't hear anything from anybody. Month or two goes by. Um, Me and two other guys who were at the tryout were invited to go meet with one of the coaches. So I knew that was good. Um, but when they sat us down and talked to us, they're like, "There's a chance that not all of you are going to be um, asked to be on the team. We're not going to give a spot to all you guys, most likely." And one of the kids, Damon Matthews, who he was just coming from Arizona State. He played football at Arizona State the year before, and then the other kid, Dominic Williams, who was coming from a D2 school who played football the year before. So in my head, I'm the only kid that hasn't been playing football, let alone college football. And so in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna be the first one that gets the boot out of this crew. And sure enough, um, in January, I don't find out until January that I made the team. I got a text saying that I had made the team, and that night I was sitting on the couch talking to my mom and dad, and the season was over, the semester was over, and they're like, "What are you gonna do?" Because I hadn't made the team, I didn't know it yet, and I kind of was just like, we were kind of making a plan. I was gonna transfer to East Stroudsburg, and I was just gonna go play there because I just wanted to play football. And once I'd made up my mind that I was gonna do that, not 20 minutes later, I got the text saying that I had made the team at Rutgers, and I just sat there, and it was the best feeling ever. And it felt like everything has finally just came together. My For the whole process, I didn't doubt it at all, and I can tell you for sure, I never doubted it one time until that night when I was talking about it with my parents, and they kind of talked me into, not in a bad way. They just wanted to see me play football again, but they kind of talked me into kind of moving on from my dream and going and just playing ball. But so I get put on the team, and it was kind of like I came in with all the early enrollees in January, and obviously all those guys are all scholarship guys. So I came in and I was kind of small fish in a big pond type deal, and I was busting my butt doing everything I could. Obviously, the winter time is mainly just in the weight room, and I was not very big at the time, probably 170. And by the end of the winter, I was weighing pretty close to 190, I think. And then spring ball started, and I was a receiver at the time. Spring ball started, I was doing fine, not anything crazy. And the day before our spring game, Coach Schiano called me in his office, and he's like, um, "We were having some depth issues at DB. We don't have a lot of guys, and I watched your film. You know how to play DB, so we want to switch you over on defense and see what you can do." And this is the day before the spring game, and I'm like, obviously excited, but also like crapping my pants a little bit because I have no idea what the defensive playbook is. I have no idea what's in it, no idea. And I show up for the spring game. I think I had 2, 3 tackles, and it was kind of history from there. But I, in the fall, my biggest goal was getting on special teams. And throughout training camp, busted my butt, doing everything I could. I thought I was putting good film together to have a case to be one of the starters on special teams. And week one, I wasn't one of the starters, but I just kept going, kept going. And I think it was week 3 or week 4, we played Nebraska at home. And at the beginning of the week, coach shows the depth charts up on the screen in the team meeting, showing the depth charts for special teams and everything. And I had no clue. I'm sitting in the team meeting expecting to be a 2 or a 3 again. I'm just sitting there, and uh, kickoff return pops up, and T Ward is sitting right at the top at the starting spot at the quick tackle. And I'm like, what the heck? And then kickoff pops up, and T Ward's sitting at the top at, I think it was the R3. And I'm like, kind of like getting nervous as I'm watching it. I'm like, holy crap, I'm about to play in a Big Ten football game against Nebraska. And um I at the time was just like so caught off guard because no one had told me anything before that meeting. And then it pops up, and I'm a starter on 2 of the special teams. And so then we get into the installs for the week, go through the installs, and we go out for the game. And I'm on the very first opening kickoff. We were returning. I take my drop, turn around, find my guy, and he runs right through me, and I'm right on my back. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And in my head, I'm like, obviously, immediately start doubting myself. I'm like, geez, like this is what this is about, and this is what's gonna happen. But as the game went on, I got more comfortable. Kickoff, I did well, and I was also on punt return that week, and I definitely for sure got my butt whooped on quite a few different occasions. But Coach Frazier, who was a special teams assistant at the time, he, after every single rep, I'd come to the sideline, and he'd be coaching me up on the sideline and just talking me through it. And I think we played Ohio State the next week. I'm pretty sure, or no, it was Iowa and then Ohio State, and I had the same role against Iowa maybe. And then Ohio State week comes around, and as you know from watching Rutgers football, we are a big punt block team. We love to block punts, and um, the depth chart for punt block popped up, and T Ward was at the top. And um, for our punt block, we usually have a guy that kind of makes all the checks and makes all the calls, and my name was under that for the guy doing that. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, because under Coach Schiano, that's a big responsibility, and he doesn't trust really hardly anyone at it. He'll pick one guy, and in my career, I was that guy for my all 4 years that I was there. And it was honestly the greatest thing ever. And my first college rep at being that guy on punt block, Ohio State runs a fake on us around the outside. The punter saw that it was wide open around the outside, and I'm running chasing him. And Aaron Cruikshank comes and cleans the punter out on the sideline, and we get into a big brawl on the sideline. And it, like, in that moment, once everything happened, it was like, all right, this is fun, regardless of the result of the play. It was still fun and just kind of getting in the mix a little bit. And and then somewhere down the line, we played Michigan, and Max Melton comes through, blocks the punt, and I happen to be standing right there where the ball's rolling, pick it up, run it in the end zone. And um, that was, I think Michigan was ranked number 5 at the time, and it was a night game for us. And all the lights are flashing in Piscataway, and it was a crazy, crazy moment. And even better moment once I got to the sideline to celebrate with all my teammates and all my friends. And um, that moment for me was all these years of all these things happening to me, and all the times that I was rock bottom. And that's when it all felt like it paid off. It was like, I still can't put the moment into words, but it was
Man.
amazing. And then my career went on, and I slowly kind of um, got a little respect on defense, got some plays, played a little bit. And then um, my junior year, or no, sophomore year in the Miami game in Yankee Stadium, Trevor Yaboa Cody blocks a punt, and I ended up being the lucky guy on that play again, being right there next to the ball, and get to say that I scored a touchdown in Yankee Stadium. But so my career honestly was just a blessing at Rutgers. And my senior year, just this last season, I got to play on defense quite a few times, and um, became one of the guys. I would go in a lot in the red zone and just different situations I would go in, and became kind of a certain uh, role type of player. And it was amazing. It was everything I ever dreamt of as a kid. Um, Scoring against ranked teams, playing against ranked teams, and going to all these stadiums and experiencing all these new things. It was everything I ever wanted to experience and more. And then being able to do it under Coach Schiano, one of the most respected coaches in the nation. Not to mention defensive coordinators, defensive minds, DB coach. Um, so it was amazing, and um, I owe a lot of that to my family. As I said before, like they really just were behind my back the whole way and allowed me to pursue everything I wanted to in my life and accomplish everything I wanted to. But um, so yeah, that's kind of my story.
Man,
Very, very unique in many
yeah,
ways. I've kind of lived a couple different recovery stories and a couple different walk-on stories in one lifetime, and it's kind of overwhelming at times to think about because I can't think of many cancer surviving ACL tear
yeah.
equipment manager walk-ons in the world that have done the things that I've done and been able to um, experience.
Man, one thing that really stood out to me in your story are the swings that I'd love you to take me through. So there were 3 that, and I'm sure that there have been more within your career, but just from you speaking, you go to Cincinnati, it's the thought is, "Okay, I'm gonna play college football." You get home, you're diagnosed with cancer. You're rebounding from cancer incredibly. You feel like you're playing the best ball of your life. You're switching positions for the spring game, tear your ACL, or fall game, tear your ACL. Then you see the sort of good to negative swings, but then there's that like sign from God swing where you're sitting there in your room talking to your parents saying, "All right, that's wraps. I feel like I've done all I can do." And you get a text from the Rutgers coaching staff that you're on the team. How did you manage these swings both from both sides mentally?
Yeah. Honestly, me, I've always been a guy who's always just been even throughout all of it. No matter how bad stuff gets and no matter how good stuff can get, I've always just been able to just keep an even mind. Um, and honestly, I think I get it from my dad because all his life and all throughout when I was playing pee wee football and wrestling and whether good or bad, he's always just taught me like you can't get too high and you can't get too low.
Mhm.
And it I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how I was able to keep that throughout some of the things that I did experience. Um, because I've had reasons to give up on everything and I've had reasons to think I'm that guy in situations. And I've just never let my situation dictate how I'm going to act or how I'm going to um, pursue what I want. And it's honestly a blessing, obviously, that I was able to do that because looking back, there were, like you said, there was many times where it was just like I gave everything I had and it just didn't go my way. And a lot of people, I think, would. I mean, as much work as I was putting in versus what I was getting back from it, there was no reason for me to keep going and keep pursuing what I wanted to pursue because I wasn't getting actually what I wanted out of what I was doing. But um and like I said, a lot of it's due to my family and the people that I have behind me because um they never let me get too low, and all my sisters make sure that I never get too high either because they remind me who exactly I am. And it was a blessing to have them in my life and throughout my journey.
I kind of have 2 questions. I don't know what to ask first. I'll ask this. So you spoke super highly of Coach Schiano, and I
Yep.
think people like around college football, especially I'm in Alabama, Auburn, Alabama fans sort of downplay what happens at Rutgers, but I love that Rutgers is always the underdog, the Jersey boys. My family, my cousins are going to listen to this. My dad is going to listen to this, all from the New Jersey area, and I think a lot of people agree that he embodies this New Jersey mentality that's sort of hard to explain, but it's tough. It's Sopranos. It's
Yes.
Italian. It's cool. I'd love to hear about y'all's relationship and how he has been, not just as a coach, but you might be as a mentor.
Yeah. Obviously, I owe the world to Coach Schiano because of there was no reason for him to ever give me a shot. And as much as being equipment manager is a thankless job and it's tough, it's hard, you got to put in like crazy hours. Um, there is a little bit as an athlete. I'm sure there was a little bit of a stain. He was probably worried about about there being a little bit of a stain to the Rutgers community, the New Jersey community, when bringing on an equipment manager to be a player, given the status of the program at the time. Obviously, he's was building and is currently still building a championship program, but I'm sure in his head he was probably a little nervous bringing on an equipment manager onto the team and worried about people in the community finding out after I think the year before we might have won 4 games, and that was the year we got to go to the Tax Layer Gator Bowl because of Texas A&M having COVID and
Mhm.
all this stuff. But I I can't imagine how he was feeling before being given the okay to let me on the team and all that. But um, yeah, and my whole career throughout being at Rutgers, there was never a time where you couldn't go talk to Coach Schiano about anything in your life, anything you're going through. Um, his office is right upstairs in the facility. Um, he, if you ever have anything going on that you need to talk to anybody about, he was the guy you would go to, along with all the other coaches. I had coaches there at Rutgers that I was able to talk to as well. Um,
Mhm.
but like you said, being a New Jersey guy, he's tough nosed, very intimidating because he's a Jersey guy. He's one of them Italians that you don't want to screw with because he'll get you back. But um, he's a great guy. He loves all of his players. He loves all of his coaches. He loves everyone that works in the program. And I owe a lot to him for giving me the opportunity to prove myself when there was no reason for him to give me that opportunity.
Did you ever have the opportunity to ask him why he got you on the team?
That's actually a great question. And I don't think no, I never asked him in that way. Um, why he did give me a chance. Looking back now, I wish I would have. After you saying that, I wish I would have. Um, which he's just a text away, phone call away still, even though I'm out of the program and everything. But um, that is actually a question that probably someday when I see him down the road at class reunions and stuff of our football reunions, I'll probably someday ask him when he's already built the program and has less stress and less stuff to worry about and has the has the national championship that he always dreamed of having at Rutgers. But someday I actually should I should ask him that.
Yeah, that's can you go over? I love the Rutgers culture, the chop the wood. Can you explain that to listeners who might not be totally in know what Shiano puts into his culture of his football teams?
Yep. Yeah. So obviously the family part, everyone knows forget about me, I love you. And another part, we know trust. with Coach Schiano, it's 100% honesty, no lying by omission or commission. Um, and then the chop part is just how you attack every single day, whether it be workouts, practices, school, family. He makes sure that all of his culture plays into not only our football program, but into life someday when you're not playing football anymore and you have a family and you have a wife and kids that you need to support and you
Mhm.
need to be there for. Um, but chop is just no matter what, you're diving in all the way. Throughout, Coach Schiano calls them bombs. Throughout bombs, whether it's in a game, could be a holding penalty, could be you get banged up a little bit. Um, but throughout everything, you're just going to continue to hit the same spot because when you chop a tree down, if you're not looking at the spot, you're going to hit high, low, all over the place. But with Coach Schiano, he says it's just like chopping a tree down. You got to hit the same spot over and over again, and it's going to take a lot of hits to eventually make the tree fall over. And that's how, as a program, we attack every single day. Um, College football is a grind, and the off season's a grind, and the season is even more of a grind. So you just have to make the mental decision every single day. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hit the same spot every single time. I'm not going to, no matter what's going on in the classroom, no matter what's going on at home, when I walk in this building, I'm going to make sure that I'm as sharp as can be and I'm going to be locked into everything.
What do you think you've learned most from your journey?
That's a great question. Um, One part of it, honestly, I learned life isn't fair. As you would know, um, no matter how much work you put in, no matter um, how much you think you deserve something, sadly, just life doesn't work out the way you always want it to. And more than often, it doesn't work out the way you want to. But that doesn't mean it's not going to work out. You know what I mean? It takes time to understand the big picture. And in my journey, I took a lot of failures. I took a lot of steps backwards, but it ended up getting me exactly to my destination. And that's where Coach Schiano comes in, where he always says the journey is the destination. And I understand that fully now after being done with my career, um, going through what I went through. Um, those days where I didn't think I was going to make it, those days where I was laying in bed just crying, just wishing everything was going how I wanted to. It was just that those were the days that made the destination. That those days where I got up in the mornings before school, went to work out, um, that was my destination. But I just didn't know I didn't know at the time how it was going to work out, but it eventually does, whether it's how you think it's going to work or not.
The journey is the destination. Can you touch up on that? I think that's a wonderful saying.
Yeah. Coach Schiano originally, obviously with all of his culture, we also have different sound bites on the other side of our team meeting room, and um, one of one of the words on the side wall is the journey is the destination, and it's just trying to tell you like once, even when you're at the top, you're not going to be the top isn't what you think it is all the time, and um, it may be your dream to get there, but the moments that you're living right now, working to get there, that needs to be your destination. And um,
Mm.
when you get to that point, and I lived that when I was at Rutgers. When I got to Rutgers, I thought that was going to be the top. Like there was nothing more I had ever wanted in my life than to be playing Big Ten football. And once I got there, it was just kind of like, this is it. Like it was just kind of a weird feeling. And then I came to find out like all those moments I lived getting there, those were the days that I needed to appreciate a little more, just because it's 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 kind of hard to explain a little bit, but as you go through life, everyone has different goals, but all those goals, the part where it's hard and you can't see the end of the tunnel, it's kind of like that. You can't. you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. All those situations, those are the days you need to learn to appreciate, because it's all going to play into where you want to go.
Dude, I love that. That's phenomenal. And I think that perfectly aligns with what listeners want to hear. And they're all going through their own individual journeys, not only to be inspired by your story, but to learn from your story, as well as the culture that Coach Schiano has built. I have one final question for you.
Yep.
This is a question I ask every single person who comes on the show. And I'll explain it, but I'll ask it first. How do you turn your cancers into answers? So, cancers to me, in a metaphorical sense, obviously, we both are cancer survivors, so it's a little more than metaphorical. But the inspiration of starting this show was I want to show people that sometimes failure, sometimes these hard things that happen to us are really moments where we're being taught, and we can take that with us along the way. So I'd love to hear. You could take this in any direction you want.
Yeah. When you said that, the first thing I kind of thought of, how do you turn cancers to answers? I think of kind of the journey's the destination, like I had just said, but um, also the part where life isn't fair, um, but keeping a level head through all of it. No matter what, I don't want to say it's always going to work out, but it is going to always work out in its own way. As you go through life, as you go through these things, if you have a vision where you want to go and you make decisions through your life that will go that are all made to get to that spot, eventually something has to give. You know what I mean? And I always, throughout my life, my dream was college football. I made decisions through high school, even younger than that, junior high. I was like always making decisions to get to that goal to play college football. And no matter what happened throughout, whether cancer, ACL, equipment manager, whatever, I was always just from rock bottom to wherever. My next step was always, my decisions were based off of going in the direction that I wanted to go. And that was obviously how I got to where I wanted to. But if you're always making decisions to get to your goal, eventually you're going to get to your goal, whether it be a week to months to years, 10 years down the road. If you constantly make decisions aiming towards your goals, eventually you're going to get there.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. I thank you so much for taking time out of your day, for coming on the show, not only to be vulnerable and share your story, but to teach others what you've learned. And there are going to be people out there who are listening, who are watching when I put this on YouTube and everything. It's going to impact their lives, and they're going to be inspired to chase their dreams or chase the things that they're looking for along their journeys, whether it's raising a family or getting a job or playing college football, right? We've all got different unique pathways in life. I think that we can all relate at some point. And I related to you, and this was just super special to have you on. I thank you so much.
I appreciate you for having me.